What's up, guys? It's John with National Sports Entertainment, and I wanted to go into the Chiefs Chargers game coming up. And on that note, I wasn't aware of how many people were talking about this issue. I'm assuming it's because you have a lot of people that again believe it's real, and then stuff like this makes them believe. Wait a second, this may not be completely on the up and up. Now, even McAfee had to put out a video. Here's this Chargers fan, if you remember her from the other night. I thought it was odd that the camera kept panning to her because they do it with fans, but they never go back to the same fan over and over and over. I thought she was like an extended aunt or something of one of the players or a mother, just because of how often they were showing her out of context. Now you can see below she was a diehard Vikings fan before this, and what's interesting to me is the fact that there's two interesting things. First, the reason I believe she's definitely a plant is again, the camera doesn't know who to just pan to. They pan to the people that are going to bring in ratings. And honestly, if they had fake fans, like I wouldn't even have an issue with that. It's more the fact that the players aren't even actually playing; they're out there scripting it. But the fake fans is it's an optical thing. They do it, they stole this from wrestling too, along with the signs, along with the piped in crowd noise. They steal a lot of things from wrestling, but it's the way she's acting. Like, you don't go from acting like an enraged fan here in the Minnesota, where she's wearing I think it's Justin Jefferson's number, right? Number 19. Where she looks like she's incensed. And then she's very meek and very introverted looking in these other pictures where she's just kind of to herself. And when they kept showing her in the game, it was these same expressions. She was either looking like she was waiting on a guilty verdict or a non-guilty verdict for murder, or she looked like she had just won the lottery. And again, I don't think there's anything crazily wrong with fan plants. I am curious as to why the NFL already is playing damage control for this issue. Like, I was wondering, I'm like, why would they care that much about, if even if she was a plant, even if it turned out that she was some sort of, plant from they paid her, or whatever the case may be. It's not a great look, but it's certainly not going to make them look scandalous. So the only thing I could think of, again, enough people knew she was a plant based off of the fact that she's supposedly a Vikings fan, and you're not going to be diehard fans for two teams like that. And even if you are, her behavioral mannerisms completely changed, and the NFL's pretending they don't know who she was when they clearly, if eagle-eyed fans online can say, hey, she was at these Vikings games, they probably knew of her for sure. So just like everything else, she's probably a plant. I think it's because, again, if people start questioning the merit of the fans, then they're going to have a lot more questions. Now, one, it means you don't have nearly the amount of fans that you think you do at these games. Again, this is another wrestling tactic. It's another tactic they use when they're doing movie productions. About, I want to say, 10% going incredibly light, and probably way higher of these ticket sales. They're called like out the house, I think is what the technical term for it is in the business. And basically, they're just tickets that they give away. They're tickets that they get, for family members. They all the people that are working on the show, or in this case for the game, they get dibs, and the people they know get dibs, and a very good portion, so they can sell out their stadiums. A very good portion of the tickets going out are not being purchased by fans. Now, if you watched the Super Bowl, I mean, not even getting political, when an 80-year-old man, Donald Trump, 78, however old he is, by himself is outdrawing the Super Bowl, the NFL has some problems. And they had, I think it was 50,000 at Tampa, which, just being honest, Trump outdoes. Bernie Sanders was doing around that number too. So, again, it's not a political thing on. Either way, you're being outperformed. All these guys getting all this money, being outperformed by an 80-year-old man. Not a great look. So, I think they're stealing a page out of WWE's handbook and just, okay, let's get a lot of enthusiastic looking fans. At college, it's easier to do. You can just offer these kids some free pizza and beer, and they're going to be acting that way normally. They're gonna just be cheering for the pizza and beer. So college games, because it's college, because kids are having fun anyway, it's almost impossible not to get them pretty raucous. But for the NFL, they probably just don't have the reactions that they were hoping for. This a lot of people are telling me it just, especially now that now that I know it's scripted, it just seems so boring, and it's not the same. You might have a lot of fans that are just tired of it, and they aren't that interested like they used to be. So again, they don't want to go into it too long, but I did find it interesting. They got McAfee and other people in here playing damage control for this clearly planted fan, not even fan, probably an actress. Again, I don't think you go from being a diehard mini fan to. And they just played each other. You'd think she would have gone to that game, even if she had to travel. So none of it makes sense. She's got season tickets. I think she's in the front row. This is her first time seeing her. And if she can afford season tickets, she probably could have afforded to go watch her two favorite teams, who she's obviously in love with, play each other. But for some reason, they waited until Thursday night or Monday night, and then just decided to reveal her. But either way, again, fake fans. I don't think it's whatever. Like it to me, it does show that they will fake more than just the. I guess like they don't claim to fake any. They claim 100% of it's on the up and up. But then you start seeing, okay, you got some fake fans. Maybe you get some players who are being pushed a little more better than they are. Maybe you get some rivalries that aren't as real as they seem to be. And it might uncover the whole thing. So I think that's why they're going to such lengths to protect this so-called fan. So let's go into the game. And this one, for me at least, is always a tough one, just because the Chargers very often, it's actually remarkable we got them 2 weeks in a row, or we got them 2 out of 3 weeks. We missed them on the Vikings game, but we got them when they destroyed a team recently. I think it was the Titans, and I was a little worried about it, but no, they lost to the Titans. Oh, it was the Raiders. I guess they didn't destroy them, but they beat them healthily. And the Vikings is the one we got all wrong with them. But usually we get like every single Chargers game wrong. Chargers and Titans seem to be the two teams that, like, there's teams that I've been off with this year, but I'm talking about a yearly basis where it never changes. Chargers and Titans both seem to always get me. So I'm kind of riding a high because we got both of them last week, which for me is odd. This game, I like the Chiefs, and I like them for the cover. Again, I don't think they're going to. They just went into how, the theories are saying that they have this plant in so they can bolster some ticket sales, make this fan look happy. You'd be surprised what it could do. And the team's looking pretty good, then of course you're going to have some ticket sales. That being said, that's not going to happen under Staley, especially what I saw last week. They were basically saying Moore is the more appealing coach. I have never seen a team go to a coordinator more than their coach. And they went to Moore about 10, 15 times that game. They went to Staley about 3. And I have no doubt it's because, yes, they were playing the Cowboys and they wanted to show how Moore was a better coach, a better offensive mind than McCarthy, and how they should have kept him. But at the same time, I think there was like a secretive, not a subliminal, but just basically seeds being planted letting us know Staley's going to be gone, so we can get Kellen Moore's name fresh in our minds. It's the only reason, again, I could think of that they would show him that many times, and you really can't put the loss on him. There wasn't anything particular he did that you can say, oh, they should have done this better. So, at the end of the day, I think they're going to get beat pretty bad in a game that should be close, theoretically. Vegas is saying it's going to be within a touchdown. That's why I think nobody would be expecting it. And, yeah, they need the win more. I get that. But, again, I don't think they're going to have an average record with a coach they're going to fire eventually. It makes no sense if you're trying to market this team. So, to me, what makes sense is you drop to 2-4. You get beat pretty bad here. And then they fire Staley. They move up Kellen Moore. Then they could win 2-3 games, be above 500, and be a bye for the Super Bowl. Not the Super Bowl, sorry, the playoffs. And of course, any team in the playoffs can say, "Hey, we can make a run." So I don't think they're going to win this game, but I do think the you might see again. I think it's going to be after this game that Staley gets fired. I thought there was a good chance he'd get fired after the Cowboys game, but I think after this game, at the very least, you're going to start really seeing the talks. And when they start the talks up, on the talk shows, usually, not always, because they've talked about him being fired a couple times now. But when they really start ramping up the talks, usually the guy does get fired. So, Chargers lose this game. I think that's going to be the main talking point. And don't forget, we're also, this guy is, real or fake, this guy's in some trouble because he's going up against Taylor Swift, and there's just no beating that. So, they're definitely going to run that narrative too. Like, they love running these. This team is undefeated with this, streak. So, the Niners is undefeated with McCaffrey as long as he plays a whole game, right? And the Chiefs are undefeated ever since Taylor Swift decided to grace us with her presence. So that's another thing I find a little comical about the fan, and the reason I thought I'd bring her up. Like, they think that it's like, okay, they'll bring in Taylor Swift and have her bolster sales, artificially, essentially. They'll bring in The Rock to have him bolster sales for Dion and bolster attention for the Boulders. You're bringing in Pat McAfee fresh off his SmackDown promo, but they're going to draw the line at an entertaining actor posing as a fan. That's the reason I think so many people have questions, and you really can't answer them, because if they really cared that much, they wouldn't be openly having the announcers use the word scripted. They wouldn't openly be joking about it in commercials, and they wouldn't have, again, The Rock and Pat McAfee, who were literally together in a segment on SmackDown. It's not like they were separate entities. These guys were cutting a promo together, and the very next night they're together with Deion Sanders. So the whole thing, in my opinion, is pretty funny, to be honest. I thought, again, watching the fan, I assume all of the front row people in attendance are in the know in some way or another, or they're just not in the know, but they're just paid to do something like this lady was. Again, they're gonna want the best reactions, and they're gonna want people that they know personally up front. Like, if you have a bunch of people in the first row just on their cell phones or something, or videoing the game because they have questions, maybe, right? So, like, someone like me, I can't imagine they'd even get a first row ticket. I'm not even sure how that works, to be honest. Didn't grow up rich, so it's not like I've had my choice of different front row seats. But I know people will tell me, "Oh, I'm going to the game." I went to one game. It was a Jets Bucks game, and I was actually close enough to see Rex Ryan and them talking, and like I was like in the 6th or 7th row. It was actually a pretty good seat. But even from there, like, you really can't hear what's going on. They can easily pantomime things. But yeah, I think the people in the front row, the people they keep flashing to on camera, even the parents, I think a lot of the parents are fake, honestly, or they're just like complicit, because they'll have a kid, debut, and for like 9 years you don't see his parents. Then out of nowhere, kind of like Donna Kelsey, you're just seeing their parents over and over again, and I think that's another draw. So yeah, I didn't want to go into it too much, but I thought I'd cover what seems to be the inconsistent treatment of this, paid actor plant, where they're giving it so much coverage, and then they don't realize that they just had a bunch of wrestlers at their game hyping it up. But to me, it makes sense, and especially since now they're talking about, the reason people say it's being done is because they want to make the Chargers more appealing for ticket sales. I think you got to get rid of Staley. Higher and more makes the most sense. So I think the Chiefs are going to win this game basically in a blowout. I don't think it's going to be very close. I think they're going to have Mahomes look really good. He had a slower start to the season, so I think he's definitely going to face some hiccups, maybe against Miami, but I think in this game particularly, I think he's going to be just fine. So Chiefs for the cover, I like on this one. It's going to be a leg 2. The way it's going to work is, and I always do updates before the games, but we have a good bit of leg 1s for college. So obviously I don't expect every one of them to win. If you look at my last video, I posted all my college plays, and most of them are leg 1s, so it's just going to be for one unit. Again, I don't expect most of them to win, so, say we lose 2, 3, we can go perfect, sure, but I'm just saying I have a couple leg twos ready for that, inevitability. So that's the reason another reason I do this system the way I do. It makes it where you can say, savor certain games, I guess is the best word for particular moments. So the college plays I do like, they're mostly metric plays, so they're all going to be leg ones. And speaking of metric plays, my favorite metric play is actually not in here. The Panthers are my absolute favorite play. They have not covered a spread all year long, but they are not the only team that hasn't covered a spread. So the Broncos are the other one. Have not covered a spread all year long. So you could just see they did terrible. Even the Bears game, I think they were like 4 point favorites. Let me see. Or it's not going to show me. Well, either way, I'm pretty sure, like I said, they're the only team besides the Panthers who haven't covered a spread all year long. So I figured I would just cover this one while I was here. I think the Broncos are going to cover and win this game. I think the Packers will be in there. I think they'll win some games that they probably shouldn't, and they'll likely finish where they're in a race with the Vikings for a wild card. Like I said, I still think the Vikings are going to have a pretty bad record, but you could still have them race for a little bit before they get knocked out of contention. Without Jefferson, I think that's basically telling us the Vikings are going to have a terrible year. But right here, again, I don't see too many people at all taking the Broncos. And while I don't think they're even going to give them false hope, I don't even think they're going to pretend the Broncos have a chance of making the playoffs. The line is suspicious. You're playing in Denver, which is always interesting. A lot of the Broncos games, you have the Dolphins prison pounding, but most of the games have been relatively close. They've been in the games. They've either blown games or come back. And like I said, the fact that they haven't covered a spread, obviously if they win this game, they basically cover the spread. It's 1 point. So this is another play I like. I like the Broncos here to cover the Packers by cover the 1 point and obviously win the game. So I figured I would just touch on that one. I'm still looking at a few of these because I find that Commanders, Giants could break both ways. Bills, leaning towards Bills, but you never know when the Patriots are going to get that first upset. So there's a couple of these. We'll have all the 1 o'clock games out. Again, I already went into the Lions, and I wanted to cover the Chiefs, really. I know it's a 4 o'clock game, but I wanted to cover it because I could see this move into almost a full score. They might announce a, quote, injury, and then all of a sudden it's at 7 points, 7.5, while it's under the 6. Because a lot of times, again, it seems like 6 is the new 7 and 2 is the new 3. By that I mean, instead of field goal victories, we're seeing a lot of 2-point victories. And instead of 7-point victories, not in every case, but in a lot of cases, we're seeing 6-point victories. So I like, while it's under 6, I love the Chiefs here for the cover. Again, as long as Swift is dating Kelsey, once she breaks up with him or something, or whatever happens between them, I expect him to get injured for real and be out for a while, and then the Chiefs to maybe not do so well for a bit. But as long as Swift is part of the equation, I think it's like the Deion Sanders effect. So yeah, Chiefs cover the 5.5. I think is a great play, and I like the Broncos here to cover the Packers 1 point. So while I'm looking at it, you know what? We might as well just knock out the 4s. I only got 2 left. Seahawks, Cardinals. I was looking at this one, and it was one of them that I just really looked at as kind of a 50-50. But I do like the Seahawks. The Rams were just at home, giving 7 points. So Seahawks giving another point. And while the Rams did cover the Cardinals, it was a tough cover. Like, they were tied for a little bit, and then finally they pulled ahead at the very end. So I don't see people slamming Seattle -8. Like the money line in a parlay, sure, but I don't think in general. And then Steelers Rams, I like the Steelers +3. First, this screams of a game that'll be a very close game, and secondly, I think getting the Steelers to 4-2 makes sense. The Rams are in a spot with the 7 seeds in the NFC where they can be around 500 or below, and they can still make a playoff run. I think they're going to get in. I went into that in my last video. I think the Rams, I have them in instead of the Seahawks, personally, but I still have the Commanders getting in there too. But the Rams could lose this game, and if you look at the schedule and if you look at the conference they're in, they could sneak into the NFC wild card. The Steelers lose this game. You have too many competitive teams where I think they're going to drop a couple games, and they won't even be able to pitch a possibility of the Steelers making the playoffs. And with the way T.J. Watt is being pushed, with the way a lot of the guys are being, even as I don't think he's playing well, but they're really pushing Pickens, the quarterback. I think it's Pickens. I always get him and Pickett, the receiver, mixed up, but they're pushing both of them, honestly. So I do think the Steelers get this win. I think more people are going to be on the Rams at home also. So the Steelers with the 3, I like. You can play the money line, but I personally like just taking the 3 points. So they're all covers. And like I said, the Chiefs and the Broncos are going to be leg 2s. Them both covering are going to be leg 2s. And I'm going to make the Steelers cover and the Seahawks cover leg 1s. So like I always do, I'll have all my sequences out where you can just read them. Obviously if you listen to them, you can do the same thing. You're just locking the bet. But as I always do, I do it with all my picks just because I think it's find my Discord. There we go. I think it's a very beneficial way of doing it where nobody gets confused. Just like this. So you see all of our leg 1s for college. Say Washington State doesn't cover the 20. For leg 2 is just going to be Chiefs cover. And say Ohio State doesn't cover Penn State. For leg 2 it's just going to be Broncos cover Packers. It's as simple as that. And as far as now, like I said, the Seahawks cover as well as the Steelers cover are both going to be leg 1s for 1 unit. So they're going to be their own sequence. I like them, but I don't love them. I figured I'd hit these 2 because I was going into the Chiefs anyway, and I was going to cover the Broncos because I know they suck against the spread. And then I realized we only had 2 left. So I figured we'll just hit the 4 o'clock games first. I'll still make sure all the 1 o'clock games are out in time. We don't have a bunch left. We have like 5 or 6 left that I have to go through. Browns is another interesting one. I feel like they should be giving up a few more points with Richardson out for the year. So maybe they think Minshew is good enough. I get the Browns. Watson's hurt too. But even still, I think they're a much better team. I didn't realize that statistically they're the best defense in like 5 decades, which is pretty crazy. So, at least by most metrics. So yeah, so for 2 of the plays that I do like, they're not leg 3s because again, I've closed mostly every sequence we have open, meaning we just don't have many plays to play as a leg 3. There's a couple. We just missed the Saints cover. We got the over, which was through 4 units at a leg 3, but we had them covering as a leg 2. So I went into that leg 3. That's going to be the LSU under 59. So again, that's all my last video. But yeah, we got the 4 o'clock games out of the way, and then I'll cover the rest of the 1 o'clock games. We also have NBA season starting, so I'll probably have that video out. I'm thinking like probably Sunday or something. I think the season starts Wednesday-ish or something of that nature. It could be a day or before or after that, but it's pretty soon. So I figured over the weekend we'll get the NBA games out, which is why I wanted to get the NFL out a little bit earlier so people will have time. So yeah, I'll be going into the Browns game, Patriots, Giants, Bears, Falcons, all that. Just for now, I figured I'd cover the Chiefs because they won't stop talking about this lady, and I find it interesting that you have a literal example of a paid actor in Taylor Swift, or she's probably just promote. They probably have some kind of cross promotion going on, and then they're vehement that this lady can't possibly be a plant. So I found that story pretty amusing, and yeah, between the Chiefs, Chargers, and Broncos, I like them for different reasons. Again, the Broncos is a little bit of a suspicious line, and as you just saw with the Saints finally going over, you're not going to have a team just not cover all year. So we'll be playing the Panthers in Week 8, you better believe, and because of Staley, I think the Chargers are going to lose by at least 6, and there's a good chance he gets fired. So I'll be going into the rest of the games, but take care and happy earnings.